been an integral part of my life since my early childhood. I remember sitting down with my mum in front of the TV and watching Silence in the Library. It was my first episode, and it got me hooked. That was David Tennant and Catherine Tate. And when that doctor left, we sort of fell off a bit. We've recently gone back and rewatched Matt Smith's era and enjoyed it. Still not as much as David Tennant or Christopher Eccleston before him, but it was good. And then Peter Capaldi we couldn't finish because the writing we felt was a bit lackluster. But originally, before we came back to Capaldi and Matt Smith, we watched Jodie Whittaker's series, written entirely, or almost entirely, by Chris Chibnall. And the writing was subpar. If you're interested, you can watch my other video about Doctor Who, which is mostly complaining about those series and about how I was hopeful for this new sort of 3-episode special where David Tennant and Catherine Tate were back. And I think I was right to be as excited as I was. Now, I'm going to talk over various things because there's quite a bit of different parts to this episode. But, I will make it very clear, right at the beginning, I absolutely bloody loved it. It was incredible. Sitting there, again, with my mum on the sofa and just watching my childhood brought back in front of me was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. And it was a dream come true. And the way the episode was, the writing and the style and everything was so perfect. I wouldn't have changed a single thing. Well, maybe that's not exactly true. There's tiny, but still, it was so good. It was everything I wanted and more, which is the title. But anyway, I'll stop fanboying and I'll do that a bit more later. But let's go over. I've got a list of points that I want to talk through about the episode because it's blimmin' good. But this is why Doctor Who, The Star Beast, the first part of the 60th anniversary specials, was so goddamn brilliant. Now, I feel like first and foremost, the reason that anyone's going to click on a video about this episode is to hear what someone has to say about the representation in the episode. Now, I don't have a great deal to say about it. I think it was tastefully done. I think it was well done. I think everything made sense in character and in story. It wasn't obtrusive, and it was a good message. I don't get why people have a problem with it. Genuinely, it took up 2 or 3 minutes of the hour's runtime. And it wasn't, there were perfect points. And it covered pretty much every one of those perfect points. For example, older people getting gendering and pronouns wrong, or things like that, and saying about how they're clumsy. Because that's fine. That's the point. It's fine to forget sometimes. It's fine to make mistakes sometimes. Just as long as you're willing to learn and to try, that's all that matters. And that's a great message. And the message to the youth of just, this is fine, this is normal. It's great. I don't think I really have the expertise to talk about this properly, but if you just watch this clip from Doctor Who Unleashed, which is sort of the bringing back Doctor Who Confidential, which was always so great before, where Russell T Davies and the actress behind Rose Noble was speaking about the representation. And I think it's an incredibly good clip. It explains pretty much exactly how I feel about it. So I'll just run that really quickly.
What's that like? It was so surreal to me because obviously Doctor Who is huge, and I remember watching Doctor Who when I was growing up years ago, especially the Brides episode, David Tennant and Catherine Tate. And I just felt lucky enough to be seen as a trans person in something so huge as Doctor Who, and I just felt lucky that like I would be Catherine Tate's daughter in a way. That's just insane. I mean, she's an icon and I love her.
Listen, you. I would burn down the world for you, darling. Anyone has a go, I will be there and I will descend.
I think representation is so important, and if I had Rose growing up, it would be a completely different story, I think. I think representation is what we need and what the younger generation needs to feel like they can do it too, you know?
But not just representation for representation's sake either, Russell. Rose is a character. There's a lot more going on there than...
Absolutely. It becomes a vital part of the plot, that Rose contains the he and the she and the neither and the both.
Yeah.
And that's a new future. Rose goes beyond words, beyond definitions. And it is important. I think that visibility thing, I said before, is like, as you were saying, if you grow up seeing this stuff, homophobia and transphobia happens when it's something you've never seen before. You can temper that reaction and change it if you introduce these images to people happily and normally and calmly when they're young. Then it just becomes normal. It is normal. I don't need to say it's normal, but that normality just becomes part of your world. You're not stressed, you don't freak, you don't react, you haven't lost anything, you don't hate anything. It's a better world.
She's got a very supportive family and they accept her. And when she says, I'm finally me,
after all these years, I'm finally me.
She instantly runs to Donna and gives her a hug. And I think that as well, seeing that on screen. And so it's not just for the younger generation, it's for families and parents as well to know that it's kind of normalized, and it should be normalized to, you know, let your kid be free.
And I think the thing to take away is there wasn't just transgender and, you know, there wasn't just gender representation in this episode. But that's all that people seem to be taking. Like, there is pretty good disabled representation in this episode. Good disability representation, which is great. There's a character in a wheelchair who does cool things, which is good representation. But no one talks about that because it's not a controversial thing. And I don't understand that because, like, it's still representation, it's still pretty much the same thing. It still takes up an amount of the runtime, and it's still just as unobtrusive. I think there was a point to be made before, during the last few series, where some of the points that were made did have genuine critique to be made. For example, this episode was way too obtrusive. Global warming, climate change is an incredibly important topic, and it definitely suits Doctor Who. But that episode didn't do it tastefully. There's definitely a good way to do it with Doctor Who. This kind of way that this episode did it, it's not going to get through to people, and it's just going to annoy people who are already on this cause. Whereas this episode, it was so unobtrusive. I'll speak very briefly on the last couple of lines where it's revealed, first of all, that the biological meta-crisis was, to an extent, averted due to the non-binary nature of Rose.
Too much power for one person, but you had a child, and the meta-crisis passed down. A shared inheritance.
Binary. Non-binary. Binary.
And then, in the end, Donna and Rose both revealed that the way to save themselves from the meta-crisis was to just let go of the energy of the Time Lords. Which they make a jab about it being, oh, you would have understood that you could do this when you were a woman, and you won't understand it now you're male presenting. But it's kind of true. If you remember back to the final moments of Dr. Donna and the Doctor 13 years ago, the Doctor needed control at that time. He was going through a lot, and if you'll remember, in the few episodes after this, he went on a control freak thing of just trying to be a Time Lord, ruling over it as if he was some sort of dictator or something. And at the time, it would have never crossed his mind to let Donna do what she had to do to save herself from the meta crisis. Because at the end of the day, them letting go was completely outside of his control. So I think, whilst perhaps to an extent the jab was unnecessary, it still makes sense in the story, and it's just, it's a perfect way of resolving that. Because again, the Doctor is to an extent controlling, and I just, it works thematically, and it's just, it was a good way to resolve it. The final thing on this point is, everyone seems to forget that Doctor Who is already a very gender representing show. Like, the Doctor as a character, Time Lords as characters are gender fluid. They regenerate, and they could just not be the gender that, I mean, they're not even human, so they don't even have to, you know, like, yes, we've only seen them take human forms because acting, and we're humans. So yeah, I think whatever people are actually complaining about, I don't get why they're complaining about it, because the episode was great, and the little bits of representation in it were also great and unobtrusive. So I think the message is to just enjoy what you've got. No one's telling you to change your gender identity. This isn't for you. This representation, as Rose's actress says, is for people like her who are questioning themselves, to understand that that is normal, and to understand that they are not alone. Okay, that last section went on quite a bit longer than I thought it would, and quite a lot longer than I wanted it to. But it was still incredibly important. Anyway, moving on to the actual episode. Now, when watching the trailers, I didn't realise that the 3 episodes were going to be so, not disconnected, but yeah, disconnected, I guess, in an extent. As in, I expected everything to be do with this guy, who I think is the Celestial Toymaker. Although I imagine he's probably the boss that the Meep speaks about at the end of the episode. However, the episode itself was just a great classic Doctor Who story. Like, the subvertation of expectations, although while to an extent it was expected.
What are you saying?
Oh, to hell with this! Exhibit C!
And Miriam Margolyes' voice acting for the Meep was just incredible. I just loved every moment. It was just a really fun episode. Yeah, there weren't incredible stakes, but there were quite big ones. And I think the way that Donna's memories sort of returning slowly was done was very good. With her slowly sort of remembering different parts. Like when she remembers the Doctor's name and calls him it. And her mother obviously gets terrified, knowing that if she remembers, she will die.
Donna, you can't!
Take her. Take her 10 miles away. I love you, Sean. But if the Doctor can't save the city, we're all gonna die. I've got to help.
Donna!
She called him Doctor.
And the return back to the binary was very cool, considering that's the last thing Donna was, one of the last things that Donna was saying before she had her mind wiped.
Binary, binary, binary. 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 Binary.
It was just crazy. And I mean, I loved to see David Tennant being the Doctor again, and Donna Noble being the same character. It was interesting because, yeah, the whole point throughout the whole episode was about how she had won the lottery, which was something that was bigged up in the final episode of David Tennant, where he gave her a winning lottery ticket. and that she had given all of the money away. Which was something that Donna Noble wouldn't have done, and something that the Doctor was questioning why she did throughout the entire episode. And it's so funny when she comes back to being the Dr. Donna, and the only thing she cares about is the fact that she gave away the money, because the meta-crisis was making her want to be like the Doctor in how he is kind, etc. It was just so good.
I gave away my money.
Ignition in 75.
Right, but
I gave away all my money. And do you know why, Doctor? I gave it away to be like you. So I could be kind, so I could be nice, so I could be helpful. I had a subconscious infracutaneous retrofold memory loop, making me act as soft as you and give away 166 million pounds.
Yes, Donna, but destruction of London?
Oh, I'll show you destruction, mate.
And the fact that Rose became Rose when she transitioned is just, like, that's so cool, it's writing. Having Rose Tyler sort of still influencing things. It's great. I don't think we're going to see her in the next 2 episodes, by the way. Her story is done. Cards are still on the table for Martha, but I doubt that as well. But no, it was incredible. And I think that's everything, like, main story good-wise I have to say. So the final thing I want to talk about is the, like, 2 flaws that the episode had. Okay, these are small things because, again, still loved the episode, but the 2 flaws I think the episode had. One is how, like, calm the Doctor seems after having been captured and being, like, escorted to the ship. And I thought that was, oh, he has a plan. But then he's rescued by the unit lady, and then he uses that to get to the ship as if he didn't have a plan. Now the Doctor is always planning. So I was kind of like, I would have liked for him to have done something, as opposed to the way it did go. However, the way it did go was fine. It wasn't bad. I just would have liked the Doctor to have been more, or I would have liked the Doctor to have maybe contacted her beforehand or something. But it still works. I just like the idea of the Doctor as a master planner and really smart tactical guy / gal, depending. But the only other issue I had was how, when the dagger drive gets turned off, does it reseal all of the whole... Like, it was burning London in order to make the energy to leave. Why, when it's turned off, does it just put London back? It's just a bit odd. I get that they couldn't leave London broken, but it was just a bit of a weird choice. That's all there is really to say about it. Those are my flaws. That's how good I think the episode was. Those are my 2 flaws, and I can't think of any others. The sonic screwdriver had some new abilities. That was cool. I would have liked some sort of explanation, but I really liked those. I don't know whether that'll stay. But overall, the episode was great. I loved seeing Donna and the Doctor back together, and all the other characters as well. Donna's mum went sort of underappreciated in the episode. I think she was great comedically. I think the whole episode was great comedically. It reminded me to an extent of Partners in Crime, the technically 2nd episode of Donna and the Doctor together. That episode is so hilarious. I love it. And it just brought back such childhood joy watching that episode. So I'm really excited for the next 2. The way this episode ended was so classic. And I'm just really excited for where it goes. I can't wait to watch more of it with my parents because it's so good, it's so great, and I love it. And I was squeezing my mum's hand so hard throughout the entire thing. But I'm just excited, and I'm so pleased that it was so good. I'm really glad that Russell T Davies is back writing, and that's pretty much all I have to say. So I'll probably make videos on the next 2 episodes, but I'll probably wait until around Christmas time to do that. So, until then, enjoy things, don't be hateful, and just have fun watching this magnificent show that's been brought back to us. I love it. I love it so much.